Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about turning a hobby into a job, because that's kind of what I've gone and done, or what I'm in the process of doing at the moment. Over on my Patreon, I kind of have this little area where people can ask me questions and get video answers and kind of just like generally guide how this channel progresses going forward. And one of those questions actually made this video topic and the topic that I'm going to be talking about next time as well. So the question was from Sarah, and she asked, now that nature journaling has become your job, what are your hobbies outside of nature journaling, and how do you decompress after many hours of planning and working on your nature journal material? And I thought this was a really good question. It kind of like got me thinking a lot about, I have actually really changed how I view my practice as a nature journaler since nature journaling became my job. And also it made me think, like, there's so many people out there who want to turn their hobby into a job or have dreams or aspirations of doing that. So if you're one of those people, that's what this video is all about. I'm going to be answering Sarah's question first and foremost, but I'm also going to be talking a little bit about how I went about turning my passion for nature journaling into my day-to-day job, questioning whether or not you might want to do that, and if you do want to do it for your hobby, then how would you go about it? First, I'm just going to talk about some of the considerations that you might have if you do want to go from hobby to job, and answer Sarah's question at the same time, because some of those considerations really tie in quite closely to the question that she asked. Right, so let's get into it. So, right, you've got a hobby and you want to take this hobby either full-time, or you want to make it a bit of a side hustle that you can do alongside your job. Now, what are the considerations that you have to make before you could start to do this? Now, the first thing is that you need to do quite a lot of research. Before anything, you've got to decide whether this hobby is actually something that can make you an income. Now, I'm not asking the question like, can you do it, or are you good enough to do it? Or that will come to that, but not just yet. Is it actually possible to make a living from your hobby? And do your research, because pretty much anything, even something as abstract as nature journaling, could be something that makes you some money. You've got to be creative and kind of think outside the box a little bit with this. And with the internet now, you know, we are living in a modern time where you can find an audience for almost anything. I know nice little niches, perfect, because you're going to get people in who are really interested and passionate on that small topic. So the question is, from your audience, so if you start to grow an audience around the topic that you're interested in, or you go and research what audience is out there, what people watching on YouTube, how are people actually making money doing the thing that you're interested in? So just kind of make a list. Like, you can start with them being on social media and YouTube. Perhaps they're doing brand sponsorships or something like that. Perhaps they've got a Patreon or a membership and people really enjoy listening to them talk just about the hobby. Perhaps it's the kind of hobby that actually produces something that you can sell. Like if it's art, you can sell your work, you can go into galleries. If it's writing, maybe like you could publish a book or a zine or something online. So first up, make that list. Is it even possible to turn your hobby into a job? How would you make money in an ideal world if you were to do that? Now, an important point to make here is that bear in mind that you might have to teach. And teaching is pretty much most of my income. That's how I found my way into making money from my hobby. It's not the only way that I make money from my hobby, but it is the majority of it. Now the question is then, would you like to teach? Is it something that you could see yourself doing? And do you have the skill set required to become a teacher? And if not, you might want to consider developing that skill set. I really love teaching. It actually really suited me to go down this direction, and I have a background in teaching. I used to be a university lecturer, so I kind of have that background. Strangely enough, I spent a bit of time training while I was still a lecturer at university on how to make online courses, because at that time the universities were interested in these massively open online courses, and they sent me on training that was basically about making online courses. Now, I never actually made an online course for the university, but that training must be in there somewhere, because I've made my own online course now, which you can find on my website. So that question really is, I mean, do you like teaching? Would you want to become a teacher? If you don't want to teach your hobby, but you kind of would prefer to make it into a performance or something that you talk about, maybe then doing YouTube or some other content thing is for you. And or perhaps it's something where you can sell physical direct products or digital products from your hobby. Right, you got that list. So what's the next step? The next step, it's time for you to be super honest with yourself. And you've really got to take this part very seriously. Although it sounds like it could be really depressing, I really want you to try and take this on. The question next is, now that you know that it's possible to make money with your hobby, do you think that you personally are good enough, or you feel that you have developed your skills enough, should I say, to do it? So are you ready with wherever your hobby, whatever your creativity, your craft, your art is right now? Are you ready to be able to start making money, or to start teaching, or to start creating content? So you've got to be really honest, and this is a really tough call. When I first started, I started considering an art career back in 2015, and it took me to 2020 before I could even actually really start taking that very seriously, because although I kept on trying, something kind of held me back. I knew that I just wasn't ready, and so I continued with another job, and I was just developing skills kind of that whole time, basically getting better at art, keeping sketchbooks, and then eventually keeping nature journals. So be honest with yourself. It is not a bad thing if you're not ready yet. It's good, it's okay. You can take the time to develop those skills, and you know, because you've made that first list, you could even have that direction of where you might like to take those skills. You know, if you've identified that you'd quite like to do content creation, then you can go, okay, well, I need to learn how to do some video editing. I need to learn how to make nice overhead shots of the work that I'm doing or the craft that I'm making. And I need to develop my skills as a crafter, so I know what to say to people, so I know what I can draw people in, you know, as I'm talking. So be honest. If you are aware you're not ready, and you know you're not ready, it would be a lot worse for you if you said, well, no, I'm going to give up my job tomorrow and I'm just going to see what happens. Your bank balance won't forgive you, and your confidence won't forgive you. So know that you're ready to do it. And if you can say, yes, I'm pretty sure I've got the skill set, or I know I can make the skill set, and I've got enough right now to be able to get started, then go for it. Okay, so now you've decided all of that, and you think, yeah, I know I could make money. There's ways that I can turn this hobby into a job, and I am in the right place with my skills in the hobby itself right now. Then you can go ahead and make yourself a business plan or a list of business goals and start setting out your way forward into your new job. Now, I'm not going to really talk much about this. I mean, I could do, if you're interested in that sort of stuff, I can talk about it in another video. But what I'm going to go on to now is what actually happens when you have made your hobby your job. What does that do to the hobby? What does that do to your life? I mean, how does that change everything? And that's how I'm going to get into Sarah's question, because so much changes when you make that transition, when you're ready and you get started and you make that transition from hobby to job. Okay, so first thing, you've got to be aware that, just as Sarah said, what's going to happen is that your hobby is now work. It can become a source of stress. In fact, it will become a source of stress, even no matter how hard you try. Running your own creative business around a hobby is going to be stressful. And so you've got to ask yourself the question, am I able to cope with the idea that something that I've loved doing for so long is going to be a source of stress in my life? And if you just think, no, I don't want to ruin this for myself, then you might want to ask yourself the question again, is this something that I really want to do? Now, Sarah asked me in her question, you know, now that nature journaling, which used to be my little decompression, my little hobby away from my work, has become my main job, what is it that I do to now de-stress from my nature journaling? Now, there's two things I think that I can point out in this. The first thing is that nature journaling itself doesn't stress me out, okay? Because I wouldn't do it if I hated it and it made me miserable. Nature journaling is wonderful and I still love doing it, and I will talk at length about doing it as I have in lots of my other videos. It hasn't ruined it for me, and I don't think it will. And that's because what you can do is you can sort of ring fence part of the hobby or part of that creative process that makes it just for you. So for me, I have my main nature journaling project that although it is still work and although, I have to think about it as work, I don't always have the cameras on me. I'm not always filming it. I'm not always thinking about it in a way that makes it work, as it were. So it's kind of a long-standing project that I am doing that is part of my job and part of the content creation, but it's not always related to it. So it's not part of my teaching. It's not part of the things that I'm developing specifically for social media or for teaching. Although I'm doing an exhibition at the end and it might get a little stressy as we come to the exhibition date, the actual work on that particular project is something that I do in my kind of own calm way and still enjoy the processes that I'm using. So I might kind of occasionally do a page that's on an Instagram live or that I'm filming for the channel or that I know is going to be turned into a card or printed out in some way or whatever. But not every page is. And some of that book that I'm producing, I'm just really enjoying the process. So that's the first facet of this, is that you can always ring fence a little bit of your hobby that is just for you or that isn't always for the camera or for work or for teaching, that you still kind of really enjoy. The other thing that you can do is just have another hobby. You need to pick something else up. I think that it's really good for us as humans to always have like one thing that isn't a goal like for money or that isn't something that we're taking super stressy serious. So for me, that is jazz piano. And I play piano. I've been playing piano for a long time. And although, I take it quite seriously, like I have a teacher and I go to piano club and I do performances and stuff, I'm very happy to be an amateur musician. I'm not interested in becoming a professional musician. I like playing with groups and just really enjoying the music. I like listening to music and I love playing. So you need to find yourself something else that is your thing, that isn't related to work at all. And that's not just like something like TV or playing video games, because that stuff's good as well. But I think that for those of us that are really into hobbies, like so into a hobby that we would take it forward to become a career, we're the kind of people that need something very engaging in our free time. So I would say find yourself another hobby. Maybe there's something you've always wanted to do, like learn a language or play a musical instrument or do a different kind of art or craft or whatever, and take that up as a second hobby that is not for work and just enjoy it. Okay, my next point is that bear in mind that when your hobby becomes your job, there is an enormous expansion in what it means to be doing your hobby. So when I was just kind of doing art for fun and making nature journals for fun, it was just something I went out and did, and that was kind of the end of that. But what will happen, especially if you start making social media content or being on YouTube or anything like that, is that you're going to have to start thinking a lot more around what you're doing with the hobby. So you'll have camera setups, you'll have technology that you need to be aware of, you'll be maybe speaking to people, you'll be teaching, you'll be demoing, you'll be doing talks. And anything that you're creating as a part of your hobby, you'll always have like in the back of your mind, oh, how could I use this to teach? Or, oh, how could I put this up on YouTube and how would that look under the camera? So it kind of really broadens and expands what it is to be doing that hobby. And if that's something you think that will either stress you out or that you'll absolutely hate, you're either going to have to be really careful about what it is you do with your hobby. Like you could maybe, if you make stuff for sale and you're really lucky and you have buyers and you're just going to send it to a gallery, you can do your normal process, send off your work to a gallery and you're sorted. But for everyone else and for anyone who has an online business, you're going to find that your mind is blown by just how much you have to do now or how much you have to think about. And if that's something you think that, oh God, I really don't want that to happen, have another little think about whether this is right for you. Okay, so the final point then is be prepared to have less time on your hobby. Now it sounds really ridiculous because, you think, oh, I'm now full time, I'm going to be doing my hobby all the time, it's going to be amazing, I'm just going to spend my whole day painting, it's going to be superb. That doesn't happen. What actually happens is you're spending a load of time on the computer, you're doing marketing tasks nobody likes but you have to do. You're doing things like writing comments, writing descriptions on posts and YouTube videos, doing affiliate stuff. Whatever it is that your business ends up being, you'll be doing all of that stuff surrounding the actual thing a lot more than you're doing the actual thing. And I think that I had more time out actually nature journaling when it wasn't my job. So when my job was sitting behind a computer doing editing, the whole rest of my free time, apart from when I was playing piano, was spent doing nature journaling and doing it in a way that it really was just that activity. So what happens is that the time that you would spend doing your hobby is eaten into and eaten into. And it then becomes your responsibility to make sure that you actually do make time to do the thing that you wanted to do in the first place. And it's not easy. And you will kind of fall a little bit and try to spend maybe years trying to get that balance right. I haven't got that balance right, but I do find that it fluctuates a little bit month to month. And perhaps you can come back and ask me again on this channel in 2 or 3 years, and maybe I will have got it right by then. Who knows? But bear in mind and keep that in your head that if you give up your job and start a creative business, you won't be spending your whole time doing the thing that you love. So if you're someone who doesn't like the idea of running your own business and doesn't like the idea of doing marketing and self-promotion speech and having to put endless adverts about your classes out or anything like that, if you think that that's not for you, have another think about whether you want to make your hobby your job. So I hope that that has helped you. Anyone out there who's thinking of turning hobby into job, if you found that useful, then drop a comment and tell me what you thought. And if you are someone who's doing that, let me know where you are in your journey. For me, I have a real passion for nature journaling. I have a real passion for helping others reach nature journaling or find a way to bring that into their own lives. And that is what keeps me going through the tough days and the endless online tasks that mount up and the to-do lists and all of that. If you want to find out why it is that I do nature journaling, you want to look at that video there. That's going to give you all of the information about my passion for nature journaling. Otherwise, as always, thank you so much for watching. Go and check out my website, go and check out all my stuff. I'd love to see you in my spaces online, and I will see you next time.